Hi, this is Dr. Anil Shah, and this is our current episode of Masters of Beauty. On this podcast, I discuss how to dress your best with renowned world fashionista Eric Himel, who's a stylist for the stars and has been featured in such magazines as Us Weekly, Vogue, Glamour, and all over the planet. The reason we're kind of talking with the stylist is that oftentimes patients who want to look their best will do so either in the medium of clothes or, in my case, through the medium of aesthetic surgery. It's really important how clothes and hair can make a big difference in our visual appearance. In this podcast, there are some technical terms I'd like to explain before we kind of dive into that. We do talk about recessed chins in the nose, and one of the factors we'll look at that is that line or angle. There's two different ways of looking at this assessment. One is called the E-plane. Now, this was a very popular term. It's also known as the aesthetic plane, where you would see people on blogs and podcasts talking about this beauty line. The way you create this beauty line is to actually take your index finger, connect your nose to your chin, and if your lips meet this line, it's said that you meet, quote-unquote, their beauty scale, and if it's behind the line, you didn't meet the beauty line. Now, obviously, this is a rough assessment of beauty, and lots of beautiful faces won't fall in this category. I think a better way of analyzing the chin is to drop a perpendicular line from the lip down to the chin. In a male, an ideal chin should actually meet this line or go slightly in front of it. In a female face, it should be 1 to 2 millimeters behind it. There's lots of beautiful and attractive faces that don't follow these ideals, and it's for many of us, it's just sort of understanding that this is just sort of a basic construct to understand beauty. The product that we're talking about today is Retinol Forza, Lieve, and Meso. These different products are 3 different strengths of retinol. These are time-release retinols that can be as strong as 1.5%. With time-release retinol, patients can experience the benefit of retinol not just at night, but throughout the entire day. I personally use Retinol Forza twice a day to maximize the benefit of retinol, and it is a fantastic way of evidence-based way of treating aging, fine lines, and actually reducing your oil. I'm really happy to be joined by Eric Himel. Eric Himel, if you don't know, is a celebrity stylist. He's based out of LA, New York, and Chicago. And he's been featured all over the place. He's been featured on E!, ABC, Lifetime, and he styled clients from all over that are who's who, including Ali Larter, Giuliana Rancic, Kristin, Cavallari. And the reason I have a stylist on here is because I think that it's the same ecosystem that we're talking about. It's all of us wanting to look and feel our best. And for some of us, that means we do something in the surgical realm. For some of us, we do something in the fashion realm. And a lot of times, it's both. I mean, you're doing things to look and feel your best. So we're going to talk about some common issues that plague both men and women. And then what is a celebrity stylist perspective on this? And then we're also going to touch on why you need a stylist for you to make your life better and to look your best. Because it's not just saying, wow, I have a 6-pack now, or now I've lost this weight. You want to show it off, and you want to look your best so that other people can really catch that updraft, that everything's looking your best. So, Eric, welcome aboard.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Shah.
Yeah, great to have you. And you're always kind of moving and shaking. You're in LA, and now we're here in Chicago and New York. And how's that?
I'm all over. I have clients literally all over the country because bad taste doesn't sleep. And I'm in need everywhere.
Absolutely, and you've saved me for many fashion emergencies. And but we're gonna get your expertise on a couple of different issues. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is men.
Okay.
So a common issue that comes with some men is they come in and they have maybe a more prominent nose, a bump on their nose. They come to you. What are you going to do with that issue?
Someone like a bump on their nose who maybe isn't ready to commit to doing something more permanent that you would take care of. I would say glasses are a really great way to break up that bump or hide it a little bit. And I very often help people pick out glasses to fit their face and also to hide imperfections like that.
Another common issue that comes up with men is a weaker chin. They'll notice in the mirror that they don't feel like they have as much strength. What are you doing for them as far as that goes?
Well, beards are really popular right now, and it's a really great way to define your jaw more. And I advise them how long to grow the beard, kind of how to shape it and things like that. But that's a really great way and very easy way to give a stronger, more masculine look.
Another issue that's happening with a lot of men is losing hair. And as we lose hair, some of us like to kind of keep growing our hair out and kind of tossing it over and turning. What's the kind of the answer for that?
Well, I mean, it's just, I always think it's obvious. It's you cut your hair shorter, and a lot of men think that it does the opposite. You cut your hair shorter, you see a higher hairline, and that's going to look worse. But it really does the opposite. It makes you look more youthful. And actually, there's been a study, women actually like men who even have shaved heads. They find it very attractive and masculine. So it's definitely going in the right direction. The other way just looks like you're trying to hide something.
And you see that with like fashion icons like Tom Ford and other celebrities who have that shorter.
Yeah, Tom Ford's he's just a great example of that. He had thinning hair, earlier on, and he really committed to a very short, cropped hairstyle, and he has tremendous style.
Okay, an issue that happens to a lot of men is they'll have that little pooch, that little extra weight they carry in their stomach. Fashion-wise, how do we conceal that? I don't know. Women can do Spanx. What can men do? And
Well, there are Manx, if you want to go that route now, which it really is a thing. It's Spanx for men. But if you don't want to wear something like that, it's actually really about tailoring. I always talk about tailoring for men and women. That's the number one thing. That's the most important thing you can do. And so men a lot of times wear things that are have too much volume, and they think it's covering it. But what it's really doing is making it look bigger. So it's just getting clothes that are not tight, but fit you really, really properly.
Now, does that mean something you bought off the rack? We do often like kind of retro tailor those too, or is it sort of kind of a mix?
Yeah, I mean, getting bespoke suits right now is a really big thing, but it's expensive. You have to wait a long time, and it's not necessarily the route you have to take for that. You can easily get something off the rack and take it to a tailor and just do a little nip and tuck, and it can really make you look slimmer and taller.
So for men with pooches in their stomach, is there a type of suit you recommend? Should they go double-breasted? Do they go three-piece? What's your thought here?
I would, avoid going double-breasted, because if you think about what double-breasted does, it actually makes you look wider. So you want to avoid double-breasted. I would avoid a 3-button suit, go for a 1-button or a 2-button suit, and also probably a single vent in the back as opposed to a double vent.
Any issues with patterns for men who are, again, trying to feel like they're a little bit more overweight? Any patterns they should avoid?
Avoid patterns on places where you are bigger or not as slim. Avoid patterns. Solid colors are always going to be better for you. Okay.
And then I'm still kind of stuck on these men with the stomach is such a common issue.
It is.
So what about does necktie have any impact on this at all, or not really?
A necktie, it can pull focus from that area. So that's when you can start playing with pattern, there. I'll give you an example also where proportion is really important. Our president right now, Donald Trump, I think people really notice he wears his neckties very long for some reason. I think it's really important that they fall in the proper place, which is just literally right above where your belt or waist will be.
Did you think that the long necktie kind of accentuates his middle stomach?
Definitely, because I think it draws the eye down instead of drawing the eye up. You want to draw the eye up. You want to draw the eye up to your shoulders, make them look wider instead of drawing the eye down to make your stomach look bigger.
Interesting. Okay, so and then for men who want to look taller, what are some ways that we can accomplish that?
Again, it's a lot about not as many patterns. Monochromatic dressing is a really great way because it allows the eye to travel up and down in a streamlined way without breaking up your silhouette visually. So you're going to appear taller. Again, going back to the tailoring, which I'm always going to mention, if something is tailored properly, you can get a suit that is inexpensive and spend money on it to get it tailored perfectly, and you're going to look taller and slimmer.
Do you think a lot of men are wearing their pants a little bit shorter now? Will that make you look taller or shorter, or what's your take on that?
It really depends how tall you are. For somebody who is short, it can make you actually look shorter. It's a trendier look, and I actually feel that the trend is kind of going away from that because it's been around for a while. But
anytime I catch on to a trend, usually it's far gone.
It's at the end. So yeah, I think my suggestion is, if you're unsure, avoid things that are too trendy. Classic is always better.
Okay. And then anything with a belt. That's kind of a common thing where, again, either men with stomachs, men wanting to look taller. Are you pro-belt, anti-belt, or it's not really a factor in this?
It's a big factor. I think with some things you have to wear a belt because it'll just look unfinished. But now the thicker the belt, it'll make the waistline look thinner. But conversely, if the belt is too thin and you're a bigger man, it could also make the waistline look bigger as well. So you want a belt that's the right proportion to the size, waist, and person you are. Also, where you wear your belt, if you have a stomach, men tend to wear it underneath, the stomach because it's more comfortable. But if you pull it up a little, it'll kind of conceal some of that stomach.
Now, I'm going to talk a little bit of some taboo topics over here. So we're going to talk below the belt here.
Okay.
So, women talk about Wonder Bra.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for some men, especially wearing tighter pants, are there any sort of, a Wonder Bra alternative for men? Be it for, the front side or the back side of a man?
So there are. It's a huge business right now. There's underwear that is padded, both or either in the back and the front. Men are becoming aware of that. Let's we talk about the backside first. Sometimes men are just born with flatter behinds, and they want a nicer shape. They could work out a lot and they can get the muscles everywhere else, but they want to have that balance. And so they do have underwear that has the padding in it that makes it look very natural. As far as the front, again, it's a very kind of fine line. You don't want it to look, outrageous, but you want to feel masculine. Into something that's going to give you confidence. I'm always for that.
Yeah, and I think that's, I think women have really embraced this Wonder Bra. It really makes them feel, sexy and attractive. And I think for men, sometimes having that same feeling, hopefully with not too much false advertising, is helpful.
I think it's really more for them because it, like I said, it gives you that confidence, and then they present themselves better.
Excellent. So for women coming in here, so a common issue with many women is they wish that their breasts were bigger.
Right.
And so what are some, aside from the classic Wonder Bra, are there any sort of things out there that sort of kind of pushing the limits on this?
Well, there's certain types of cuts that are better for women who want that look. So you can obviously mention a Wonder Bra, or just a more general term would be a push-up bra. A padded bra is going to give you a little bit more of something up there. And just certain cuts like a V-neck will be good because it'll show a little bit more skin as opposed to really covering everything up. Then it looks, I think, a little flatter. There's a little too much area covered.
That's almost counterintuitive, though, right? Because you almost think you'd want to you actually have to accentuate the area. Is that right?
Exactly. You need to accentuate it.
Huh, interesting. And how about for women with the opposite problem, women with larger breasts, and they feel like it's just too heavy of a look?
Right. Well, you obviously want to do the opposite. So you want to cover it up, but you also don't want to cover up in a kind of Amish way. You don't want to wear like a big muumuu. They still want to feel sexy and they want to feel feminine, but they don't necessarily want everybody's eyes always, looking below their face. So it's a fine line between getting things that are tailored but covering up more.
And kind of another common area that happens with a lot of women, men too, but women especially, is the neck seems to be such a common area where women will notice that they have either too much fullness in their neck, this turkey neck, this aging neck. How do you style that?
Well, a very simple solution to that would be a scarf tied in a way that just looks attractive, and it's a nice way to just make an outfit different. Aside from that, I would avoid necklaces because, again, it's about drawing your eyes to different parts of your body. So instead of wearing a necklace, wear a statement earring, because then your eyes are going to stay above the neck and around the face area.
Oh, interesting. And then what about women with, another common area is these women sometimes will complain about having taller foreheads.
Mm-hmm.
We hear about it in men, but women don't talk about it as much. Any things they can do?
Well, a lot of that it's the hairstyle. Hats are great for that, because if they cut part of the forehead in half with a hat, that's going to eliminate that. But a lot of that is then becomes your hairstyle, and really cutting that large area with maybe some long bangs or some layers.
The challenge, I think, with women, again, I don't, again, not my area of expertise, but a lot of times women have this fullness in their stomach, and it seems like dresses seem to kind of accentuate that. What can some dresses do, at least? What can women do to kind of hide that extra fullness around the stomach area?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things they can do depending on how tall they are and the rest of their body. They can do more of a what they call an empire waist, which is a higher waist, which is kind of right below the breasts, and then it just kind of drapes from that area in front of the stomach. And so it's a nice balance where it's covering it, but it's not doing it in a way where you're not covering the rest of your body. So you can enhance your breasts with that kind of look, but cover your stomach and still feel sexy.
And what about women who have, so with that area, so we're talking about the empire waist, what about with pants? Should women wear their pants? Is it similar to what men would do? Would they wear it at the appropriate level for the waist? Should they go lower, below the stomach?
It's actually different, because women are really built differently. And what you want to do is you want to highlight a waist. You want to try to find a semblance of a waist on your body when you're a woman. So sometimes if you have a short torso, you don't want your pants too high with that, because it'll cut your torso off. You want to really find the most narrow part of your waist. And women don't realize for your waist, your natural waist is a lot higher. It's really where the smallest area is on your body. It's not like where you would wear jeans. It's higher where your natural waist is. So you want to focus on keeping that area as slim as you can.
And what about women with belts? Any differences between belts with women, belts with men?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about belts with women versus men is that I think men are expected to wear belts more. I think it completes the outfit more. I remember my mother used to always say, don't leave home without putting on your belt. You don't look dressed. But with women, it's more really of a fashion accessory. And going back to the natural waist, that smallest area, a belt can be a really useful thing. So if you highlight that area with a tighter belt and think about not on the hips, but on the waist, really a lot higher, you can bring a dress in, a shirt in, and just highlighting the smallest part of the area will just make your whole silhouette look thinner and really, really feminine.
Now butts are really in, for women, and women are seeking bigger and bigger butts and that look. Now, if you're not, I guess, endowed with a great butt, what are some things you can do fashion-wise to kind of really accentuate it?
Well, going back to the waist and where that should hit. If you have for instance, a flat butt and you're a woman, you should wear a low-rise jean. Otherwise, if you think about it, you wear a higher-rise jean, it's going to create a really flat, long, wider and taller plain area. So that should be lower. Anything you have, if you have a butt that's not as big, anything that will make you look just curvier. So a pant with stretch in it is always advantageous for adding more curves to that area.
It's actually kind of counterintuitive, right?
Again, it's all counterintuitive. But they're little tricks.
Do most people do the opposite of...
Yes. They always seem to do the opposite. They feel like, I think their first reaction is, I don't like something, I want to hide it. But sometimes that's the worst thing you can do.
And then how about for women who have a larger butt and they want to de-accentuate it? So I guess we would do the opposite of what we think here, right?
Yeah, and I get this a lot. And it's funny because I think women don't understand how much men just really like women's butts, and they like them in all shapes and sizes. But women seem to think that a butt that's too big sometimes. I know you said it's popular, but some women also don't like that big butt. So they feel like, I just want to cover it. And again, going back to that kind of moo look, they think, I'll throw that on to cover it, when really it can make them just look larger. So I say, enhance that and own it and feel more confident. Wear a waistline that's higher, because again, wearing a waistline like a jean, a low-rise jean, is going to make it look bigger. So wear a high-waisted jean.
Another issue with women is going to be, we call them bat arms, the arms that get sort of larger as we get older. They see that sagging, especially on the lower part near the tricep. Any styling tips for women with this issue? Yeah,
I mean, there's so many different types of arm sleeve lengths. There's sleeveless, obviously. There is a cap sleeve, which is a little longer, and then there's kind of a longer sleeve that goes above the elbow, which could be either fitted or not fitted. That's the one that I think is really the best if you are sensitive about that area, because if you wear a cap sleeve, it's going to cut you probably in the worst area and going to emphasize that area, and obviously sleeveless will as well. So something that is right above the elbow and fitted is great. Otherwise, you can go with 3/4 length sleeve, and not only will it cover your arms that you don't like, it'll elongate them too.
Okay, and for women who want to look taller, aside from putting on heels, anything else they can do to sort of accentuate that look?
Yes, going back to what you said about that pant trend for men, it's the opposite for women, because think about, again, you always have to think about where the narrowest parts of your body are. You want to highlight them, and typically it's around the ankle area for women, because it's bone right there. It's not really fatty. And so a cropped pant that is narrow, that kind of ends right above the ankle, will elongate the leg, because you're exposing that very pretty slim area around the ankle.
So people who want to look younger, so people who come in and they're in their 50s and they kind of just want to look younger, what age should they be trying to dress? I mean, do you find people who are wearing like things from Forever 21, for example, do you sort of cringe and say this is not age appropriate, or is it a mix and match? Or
I find that it's geographical. When I'm in LA, I have to pull women back because they really want to dress inappropriately young, like their daughter. When I'm in places that are maybe known for being a little bit more conservative, like a Chicago or some places on the East Coast, I have to encourage them to maybe, bring a little bit more of their sexy out. So it depends where they are. But I say that, you want to find that fine line between, because don't think about your age. It's really just a number now, as you know. But something where you feel comfortable, but, it doesn't feel too old, and it doesn't feel like something you would see on a high school girl, and just try to find your own style. But the bottom line really is to be confident and not try to emulate things that you're not comfortable in.
I think the interesting thing too with stylists, and I'll kind of go to a kind of a personal side here too, is I think when you're talking about almost everything is counterintuitive, with styling. And, myself as an example, I a client of yours, and for me, I actually thought I was a decent dresser, and that's your own stuff. I think most people kind of look at themselves in sort of this box or this vacuum, and they say, I think I look okay. But when you have that, and if you ask people around you, I don't know if they really care when they understand style as much. They think, oh yeah, you look good. Your shirt's 10 times too big and everything doesn't look quite right. And so I think but you don't really realize that if you're looking at pictures until you get styled. This is my take. You really don't know that maybe your clothes don't fit properly. You're wearing pants that are maybe a little bit 80s-ish, and that aspect. So I think that need for the stylist is something that you need people in your life to help bring out the best in you. And for me, it's the worst thing possible is for someone to have something done, maybe to their face, maybe to their body, and not look appropriately afterwards. It would look ridiculous if someone was still a mess afterwards, fashion-wise. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on that, on people's stylists? I mean, What is that transformation? When do people see that the click? When people say, "Oh my God, I need a stylist." What session is it with you? Session 1, 2, 3?
It's definitely session 1. It happens really quickly, and I find a delineation between men and women in this respect. As far as men seem to have more of an ego, and I find that there's this process that you literally I see in front of me where they reject, they look in the mirror like a peacock, they like it, and then they accept. Where women, I think, tend to come from a place of a little bit more insecurity, where men come from a place of ego. But I think ultimately, because this is something I do, just like you are very good at looking at a face or a body and intrinsically knowing what's off as far as the balance and everything, I can look at somebody and know what's off. The tailoring, the sizing, the color, the fabrics, whatever it is. So it's just, sometimes it's a little tweak, sometimes it's a big tweak, but I always equate, if people say, no, having a stylist, that sounds like an indulgence for celebrities. I equate it to having, a personal trainer or something like that, that it's something that, no, you're not going to die without it, but it would really enhance your life in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think it's true. It's kind of intimidating. I think when you how people talk about having a stylist, it sounds like, oh my God, I'm going to have, a celebrity stylist come into my home. Actually, it's kind of funny. My daughter, like, oh my God, a celebrity stylist is coming into our home. She got all dressed up and she was wearing like her best clothes, and she was kind of like normally talkative and being quiet and waiting for you to comment. But I think actually a lot of us it's sort of intimidating to have a stylist come in because you're sort of saying, evaluate me, look at me. And I think it's similar when you go to a plastic surgeon's office. How do you make that process less intimidating so people both understand they need it, but it's not so, you feel so vulnerable?
I mean, I know it's very vulnerable things. I deal with people all the time. And I think I use a combination of reality and kind of humor to offset it, because I don't want people, people are coming from a place of insecurities. Everything comes to the top when you think of a stylist and think of that process. And I want to really highlight the things that I think are positive, they're doing right, and really tell them in a way that's not demeaning, but maybe is holding them back. Because ultimately why I got into this is people do judge other people. It's a very natural thing to do, whether they vocalize it or not, they are judging them. So I got into this because I want people to look and feel their best. So I just try to communicate to them in that. And as you know, I use kind of sometimes funny analogies, and it really kind of, I think, hits the point home.
So, and I think that's important. And having a stylist you can trust too. I mean, I think you just couldn't. I mean, I can dress myself, but can I dress myself well and look so put together? And if I'm looking to be put together, I cannot do that the way that you can do that. And I think people don't realize, well, how can you not match? It's not about matching a pattern. It's just like you don't see yourself unless someone else sees you on the outside and sees, okay, this doesn't fit, this proportion's wrong. You need to have that person kind of putting things together. And this is me. I'm an aesthetic person. I look at faces all day. I look at bodies all day. I look at things I like, but when I put it together for myself, it's actually kind of hard to do, which I don't think people realize that.
Well, the one thing I tell people is they shouldn't be so hard on themselves, because, the thing about dressing is that we unfortunately or fortunately, we have to dress ourselves. We can't walk around naked. But we didn't learn in school how to dress ourselves. Sometimes our parents don't know any better, or our friends. So it's like the blind leading the blind. So it's not a bad thing to ask for help like you would for anything else. The only difference is we've dressed ourselves because we had to. But, asking for help in that respect with somebody who's objective like myself just makes sense to me. So I don't think people should be afraid of it.
And so for clients who want to get a hold of you, Eric, what's the best way they should get a hold of you?
Well, it's erichimel.com, ERICHIMEL, 1M, or they can follow me on Instagram. There's a lot of good tips there. I'm in magazines, I'm on TV, I'm, always doing things. My favorite thing really is to style real people, because that's where I get the most satisfaction from.
Absolutely. And I think it's amazing for having Eric. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you.
And I think despite Eric's accolades and being all over the place and styling celebrities from all over the world, I think that means he's got credentials and people trust him. But the fact that he can make you feel like a celebrity and feel special and know that you're going to look your best. I think that's what I think really has drawn me to Eric and his personal sense of style. And I think that it's really brought out the best, I think, in me when I'm wearing things that have been picked out by Eric. You can always tell if I'm wearing an Eric Himel outfit versus an outfit I picked out my own. And I think we're all coming from, in the beauty industry, we're all kind of sharing that same commonality is when you see someone come in. I love the before and afters. I'm not sure if you like these before and afters.
Oh, they're my favorite. They're my absolute favorite things.
I will be sure to post a before and after on Instagram. But I think that before and after, seeing people change, seeing the way they look and how they interact with others, and making people look their best. That's why I'm here. It sounds like that's why Eric's here, and
Definitely.
we're all in it to make you look your best and feel your best.